Hi. So, until now we saw two of the writer's explanations, opportunity costs and adaptation, in which he wanted to explain how having more choice makes us unhappy. The writer has more explanations in the text in sections 3 and 5, but we will not read those. We will now go on to section 6 to see possible effects of having to deal with too many choices all the time. Let's zoom in on the title, A Link to Depression. Notice that the section heading is a question. So, the writer is asking, is there a link between abundant choice and depression? Today, depression is quite common. Might it be connected to the fact that we live in a society that offers us so much choice every day, all the time? That will be the focus of this section. Let's take a closer look. Zoom in on paragraph 25. Let's start reading the first sentence. Usually we can find the idea of the section in the first sentence or the first paragraph of the section. This is a difficult sentence. Let's break it up. The consequences of unlimited choice. This is the subject of the sentence. ההשלכות של מבחר בלתי מוגבל. זה הנושא של המשפט. May go. This is the verb. May. It's a possibility. Maybe. Far beyond mild disappointment. זה יכול להמשיך הרבה מעבר לאכזבה מתונה. To suffering, לסבל. כלומר, ההשלכות של מבחר בלתי מוגבל, מבחר גדול, עשויות להיות הרבה מעבר לסתם אכזבה, נניח בגלל שלא מצאנו בגד שרצינו בדיוק. אלא המחבר אומר, יכולות להביא לסבל של ממש. Let's zoom in on the second sentence of paragraph 25. We'll read it together. As I indicated earlier, Americans are showing a decrease in happiness and an increase in clinical depression. The writer is saying that people are less happy, but he still doesn't deal specifically with the connection between depression and choice. In the next few sentences, the writer will try to explain, and this is what we need to find out. Question: how is abundant choice linked to depression? The following chart can help us. We have here a sequence of 4 stages. יש לנו כאן רצף של 4 שלבים, which show how choice might lead to depression. The first box tells us that people make their choices. Then we need to find 2 stages that lead to depression. Continue reading paragraph 25. Take a few minutes. Press pause and come back when you're ready. You're back. Great. Let's go over this. The first box says, people make their choices. Let's scan paragraph 25 for these words or something that is very similar. בואו רק נסרוק ככה בעין כדי שנראה איפה זה מתחיל, התהליך הזה. People make their choices or decisions. So we see in the paragraph like this. When we make decisions, this looks like a good place to begin. Let's go on. Experience the consequences and find that they do not live up to expectations. This looks like the next stage. But what does it mean? כלומר, אחרי שאנחנו בוחרים, ההשלכות של הבחירות שלנו לא עומדות בציפיות. After we make a choice, we're not happy with it. Let's put this in the little answer box. People make their choices and they, the people, find that the consequences do not live up to expectations. Let's go on to what happens after. In the text, we blame ourselves. אנחנו מאשימים את עצמנו. The rest of the paragraph continues the same idea. So let's go back to our chart. They, the people, blame themselves. Well, this is the writer's explanation. let's see what the writer will be doing in paragraph 26. The research that my colleagues and I have done suggests that. So, the writer will talk about his research. This is not surprising. Usually, in academic texts, writers support their ideas with evidence. So let's continue to paragraph 26 to see what kind of support our writer brings. The research that my colleagues and I have done suggests that maximizers are prime candidates for depression. The writer is referring to maximizers, which we already read about in section 1. Remember the maximizers? Those who always aim to make the best possible choice. The writer is saying that those maximizers are at risk, בסיכון, for depression. Now, let's look at the following words. Suggests that, מציע ש. This means this is a conclusion of the study. Here we see that the writer began with the conclusions. הרבה פעמים המחברים מתחילים מהשורה התחתונה, מהמסקנות של המחקר, ואחר כך הם מפרטים איך הם הגיעו למסקנה הזאת, כלומר את הממצאים. Let's see. Our next question is, what are the findings of the writer's research? Continue reading paragraph 26. Press pause and come back when you're ready. You're back. Let's see what the findings are. You probably saw the words "we have found" towards the end of the second sentence. Let's read this together. We have found a strong correlation between maximizing and measures of depression. So the writer found a strong correlation. Now let's think a minute. What does correlation mean? Correlation, מתאם או קורלציה. Still, what does it mean in our context? Correlation means that there is a connection between two or more variables. כלומר שיש מתאם בין שני משתנים או יותר. In our case, it means that there is a connection between maximizing and depression. Does this mean that maximizing causes depression? Well, that seems logical, but it isn't always the case. Let's give you an example. For example, there's a well-known correlation between smoking and drinking. Many people who drink alcohol are also smokers. Does this mean that drinking causes smoking? Of course not. What can explain this? We can say that someone's lifestyle, סגנון החיים של מישהו, can explain both, or any kind of explanation that connects the two. So, now that we understand what correlation is, we can answer our question. The researchers found a strong correlation between maximizing and measures of depression. So the writer says that there's a correlation. He can't say that one causes the other, but he does see a link. He sees a connection between them. So let's see how he explains this in the text. We are zooming in on the last sentence of paragraph 26. Although, למרות, this word shows that the main point will be in the second part of the sentence. Although depression has many sources, למרות שלדיכאון יש מקורות רבים, the writer knows that there are many reasons for depression, not only choice. And the relation among choices, maximizing, and depression requires more study. There is good reason to believe that. Oh, we are getting to our main point. There is good reason to believe that overwhelming choice at least contributes. כשיש הרבה בחירה, זה לפחות תורם to the epidemic of unhappiness spreading through modern society. למגפה של חוסר השמחה בחברה המודרנית. In other words, the writer says there's reason to believe that too much choice leads to unhappiness. So, there's a link. Regarding this last point, I have a question. Is the writer absolutely certain that too much choice leads to unhappiness? Or is he reasonably certain that too much choice leads to unhappiness? Or is he not sure that too much choice leads to unhappiness? Let's look at what we have read. The writer is certain about the correlation. We have found a strong correlation. But we also have the research suggests that. Suggests means I'm almost sure, not 100%. And in the last sentence of the paragraph, we see requires more study. Requires more study. We need to study this a bit more. This is not so certain. And in the same sentence, there is good reason to believe, meaning it is reasonable, but not absolutely certain. So, he can't be absolutely sure. He is reasonably certain. The writer showed us that there is a strong connection between too much choice and unhappiness, but he can't say that too much choice causes unhappiness or leads to unhappiness. This is why he is not absolutely certain, but only reasonably certain. So, we did a lot, and it's time to sum up. We are ending our lesson. What did we learn? According to the writer, there's a link between choice and depression. And the writer is reasonably sure that too much choice, among other things, can lead to depression. How did we learn this? By reading section 6, the writer's explanations, and the writer's study. In the next lesson, we will read the next section, what can be done. So see you there.